So welcome to the second part here. We're just going to open a paint here, and we're just going to need to draw separate body parts for this method. This will be method 2. We're going to be drawing our player this time, and next thing we're going to want to do is start drawing the limbs. So I'm going to do something very, very simple here. I'm just going to do a hand, a head, and a foot. Of course, when you're doing it, you might want to be a little more complex and use a body part, upper leg, lower leg, maybe even their arm. Depending on what you want to draw. So we're just going to start off with a circle here. This is going to be the hand. And I'm going to fill it up with white. There we go. Make it look nice-ish. Paint's fill tool. Never get over it. Asset. We're just going to create a new folder for player body parts here. So just going to call it player. Open it up and name this one hand. Next, we're going to want to do the foot. If you're going to follow along with exactly what I'm drawing. Then again, you can always pause it and just draw your complex thing. Just make sure each body part is saved to a different picture. Or if you're using a better program like Photoshop or Sprite, you can just do separate layers and just save it differently. So I'm just going to color it up here, make it look nice-ish. And then there's the fill tool doing its thing. Just going to touch up the lines here really quick. Yeah, a sprite would be better if you're into making sprite-based games. If you have the money, it's like a $22 investment. It's completely worth it, especially when you get used to it. It's like Photoshop, but for sprite-based stuff. Just save that in there, delete it. We're gonna draw the head out. No, better shape than that. Something like that seems okay. And nose and mouth, and I'm gonna draw a little eye here. Give it a little bit of hair as well. If you call that hair, maybe feathers. Alright, just gonna try coloring it out a little bit. Nope. Okay. Let's try a different method. And no, okay. I'm gonna do this really quickly and get back to you. Just give me 1 second. Alright, this is the finished head here. Program you're gonna want to install inside the Unity asset store is the Anima 2D. So you get it off the website here. It says it's no longer supported, but it still works. So I'd grab it now while you still can. And we're gonna jump back into Unity. There we go. So now you want to highlight the 3 or more objects that you created. And we're just going to go to Anima 2D Sprite Mesh. It's going to do all 3 objects for us. Edit Sprite Mesh when you select it. Go into Slice It. So these lines are basically highlighting what we're animating. Just hit Apply. Usually it highlights better, but we're going to do it manually. Just like try and get the whole object in there. There we go. You can also add more by double clicking or shift clicking on the blue lines there to make it more specific. And we're going to do the hand and the foot. So slice, apply. All right, that's fine. And then the foot. Slice, apply. There we go. You're going to touch it up a little bit. Something like that, I guess. Sure. Apply. Now we're going to grab our player object. I'm just going to put it to the bottom of the hierarchy here just so it's easier to recognize what we're doing. And just drag in the sprite meshes. Make sure it's the sprite mesh and not the sprites, the ones with the arrows. We don't want to use those. We want to use the regular ones. There we go. And just move the player over. Now we're just going to disable the white box that we had as a placeholder. And just to line up your body parts. Oh, and the head's looking a little weird. So I'm just going to, yeah. Okay, so make sure it's covering everything. Nothing is highlighted out. Just going to apply it. There we go, and then just fix it up. In the sprites, just make sure there's no filter. Set a bilinear point. I'll clear it up, makes it more pixely. And now we're just going to line the parts up to make the character look the way we want. I'm going to duplicate the foot, so we have 2 instead of just 1. For walk animations, jump animations, the whole works. There we go, and drag it down a bit, and make the back foot order -1 or less. Just make sure the right foot is order and the layer is higher than the left foot, really. Alright, now we're going to create an empty object in our player and call it bones. So this is where we're going to rig our character. 2D object, bone. This only pops up if you have Anima 2D, by the way. The bones in that. And we're gonna need to scale the bones down, but this would be your hips. So this would be the base of your rig. We don't have hips, but yours would be between the legs. You just scale it down, so if you move the hips, the whole body will move with it. So we're just gonna scale it down to the length and all that. Rotate it to make it perfect. You want it to line up as well as you can. And you also want to name them. So I'm going to name this one hips. We really need to be organized when it comes to bones. Anything else is, it's always better, but I can really stress it on this. Always name these and just resize it to match the head. Head. We have to right click the hips again. So don't right click the head this time and just make it for the hands. And then we're going to make it for the feet as well. So I'm just going to rotate it right about there. Seems good. Go, lengthen it out a little bit and rename it to hand. Awesome. Another one, right foot and then left foot. So we're just gonna line it up there. So this method, when you're reading it, it's a little bit more complex than what we were doing earlier, as to just drawing it out. But in the long run, it's way easier after you get it rigged up to animate. So I'm going to show you why in a second. So we're just going to rig it last foot here. So nothing's done yet. We're going to need to apply the bones into the transform. So you'd have to select the head of the sprite mesh, not the bone, at the very top, and just drag the hips in. So up here, we're going to select the heads and drag the hips into set bones. And we're going to need to get rid of the hand and the feet bones. We don't want them affecting each other. And then we're going to do the same for the corresponding object. So hand in hand, foot and foot, left foot and left foot. There we go. So now it's still not applied yet, so don't go moving anything just yet. We're almost there. We're going to need to go into the sprite mesh editor and apply the bones. So open it up, and bind should be popping up. If it's not popping up there, it's because the head in the player hierarchy isn't selected. So just select that, and the bone should pop up, and you should be able to bind them. And it'll color the weight. So the more red a bone is, the more it affects the object. So the hips is going to affect the bottom of the head more than the top of the head. And so on and so forth. But to really understand it, you do have to mess around with it a little bit. So we're just going to bind the bones and apply it. There we go. And I made a mistake here by duplicating it instead of creating a separate sprite mesh. So I just have to close that and just make sure everything still works. See how that one doesn't work? Okay, so we're just gonna, nope, wrong one, duplicate that. First, yeah, duplicate it and then unbind it. Just drag it in, delete that, drag it in. Sprite mesh, unbind it, apply, and then we're gonna need to delete the bone inside the parented foot. It's gonna mess things up. And then just drag it in there. It works. And reset the position and the bone. Left foot to left foot, and then rebind it accordingly. So that mistake can happen. But this is just another way around it. There we go. All our bones are binded. Now we're gonna start animating. Trying to cut to it. It's gonna be just like the other one. So now we're gonna go into animation. And then we have our rig set up, and make sure your player is selected. We want the player object, nothing inside it. Create, and we're gonna do an idle animation first. There we go, and you normally do 0.5, but with idle animations, you want to move slower. As in, like, because an idle animation is like the relaxed state. So I'm going to do every second. You're just going to move down to there, the foot out a little bit. We're just going to copy the first frame here and then paste it to second number 2 all the way out and give it a little test because it automatically repeats. So that's his idle animation. Pretty cool. But we're gonna need more. We're gonna need a jump animation and a walking animation. We're gonna start with jumping. So maybe about 15. Wait, 15 in. We're going to move the foot up and the hand up along with the head. There we go. Like he's jumping-ish. And then we're going to copy that frame and then paste it a ridiculous amount away. You could probably do as far as you want. I'm going to stop at about 12, 13. And it should look something like that. There we go. And one more animation we got to create is a walking animation. This one's a little more complicated, so bear with me here. Just name it walk and record it, and we're gonna have to simulate him walking. So in the first frame, we're gonna move his foot up, and then move the hand up a bit. I'm sorry. Rotate the head forward. There we go. And now we're gonna wanna bring the hand a bit forward. Grab the foot, touch the ground, the hypothetical ground. We're gonna bring the foot back. Like he's pushing off. Bring the foot a little bit forward, rotate it up, bring that foot back, move the hand up a bit more, move the head back, go, and then we're going to drag that foot forward like it's taking a step, hitting the ground. We're going to push that foot back, bring the hand back down, bring the head back down a bit. We should be able to loop it with the first frame. Yeah, so I'm just going to copy the first frame and paste it 5 frames after. And our walking would be a little bit fast, but it looks like he's walking. That's all that matters. Here we go. Awesome. So now we're going to have to apply it into our logic here, which is probably, in my opinion, the easier part. We're just going to go to the animator, click the player, create the transformations, the transitions. Just organize it a little bit. Create a bool moving, and then another bool jump. So we can set the conditions as to why we would move to animation to animation. There we go. Let's create a transition to the jump from both idle and walking, because you should be able to jump while you're walking or just sitting still. We're going to want to get rid of the exit time, like the last video. Make the transition duration 0, and then the parameter is going to be jump true. Same with the other one. There you go. Move it back, transition back, and the only condition for it being back would be if jumping is false and moving is false. And with the walk, it's going to be if jumping is false and moving is true. There we go, jumping false. Okay, and next we're going to want to create a transition between the idle and the walking. So back and forth. Same thing, if moving is false, then he's going to be idle. And then if moving is true, he's going to be walking. There we go. Let's give it a test. I'm going to jump back in and see how it works. Oh, that's right. Sorry, yeah, we're going to jump into the player controller code. We got to apply it, make sure that the logic works. So in here, we're going to create another public animator reference, and we're going to name it Anima. There we go. And we're going to apply the logic. So if horizontal, so the input there is, that's us moving. So if we're moving, our anim is going to set the bool moving that we applied to true. And we're going to copy that. And there's a nifty little feature you can add else statement. So you just type in else and then do another bracket. So if it's not doing that, if it's not moving true, it's going to be moving false. Very, very useful. And in here, we're going to do the same thing, but for jump. Make sure everything is spelled correctly because that can cause some issues if not. There we go, and then jump to false. That should be it for coding. We're just going to give it a quick little test. We're almost done here. This method's easier to create animations faster after you get the rig done, but they don't look as good as if you were to draw them out frame by frame. Just move the player back. And we're going to press play. And there we go. So he's idle when we're not moving. He does the idle animation we made when we move, he walks. Then when he jumps, no. So when he jumps, he's not moving, he makes a jump animation. There we go. Then test it out by landing on the slime's head. There's some polish we can do here later. But there you go. Yeah, that's not supposed to happen. And fix that as well. But the reason why the jumping wasn't moving when we were walking is because I made a mistake here. Just make sure that's jump true. And here we go. That's the second method for animating. Thank you for watching.